Good evening, I'm CJ Hero.
And I'm Nina Richie Alagao Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines.
Malacanang maintains existing COVID alert levels in the country, but President Marcos sees the need to improve the alert system in August. PNP carries out initial security and deployment plans for Monday's SONA. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. pays a courtesy call on Iglesia ni Cristo Executive Minister Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. 18 women drown as boat capsizes in Pakistan wedding. And two-time Olympic skating champion Hanyu retires at age 27.
For now, the Marcos administration is keeping the current COVID-19 alert levels in the country. But the president sees the need to introduce changes in the existing alert system in the coming month. Eden Santos has the details.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has retained the COVID-19 alert levels in Metro Manila and other areas in the country. But Malacanang said the president is eyeing to separate the alert level systems from restrictions, which would be compatible with the current milder strains of the virus. In a meeting with Health Officer in Charge Maria Rosario Vergere, the president said the current alert level system would be improved or adjusted if more people receive their booster shots. The chief executive added that once a decision is made regarding the appropriate policy, this would be cascaded to the public. Vergere, for her part, confirms that a new policy may be out by August. She says the period is suitable to allay fears of the medical community and give them time to make COVID-19 cases manageable. The health official added that the Marcos administration would intensify its national vaccination program. The DOH announced that they are targeting to administer 23 million booster doses within the first 100 days of the Marcos administration. Of the 55 million fully vaccinated Filipinos, more than 40 million individuals have yet to receive their third dose. Meanwhile, Vergere also said they will reorganize the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases to only keep those with relevant and intended functions. Eden Santos, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The COVID-19 positivity rate in Metro Manila is slowing down in the last 2 days. Octa Research Fellow Dr. Guido David says as of July 16, the daily positivity rate in the National Capital Region is at 12.5%, down from 14% last July 15. The other day, the positivity rate is at 12%. Guido says that if the trend continues, it would mean the spike in infections has reached its peak. The positivity rate is the percentage of individuals who test positive from the total number of people who have undergone COVID-19 tests.
The Philippine National Police is all set with its security arrangements for the first State of the Nation address of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. For one, the police force has conducted a walkthrough inspection in the vicinity of the Batasang Pambansa complex. Mar Gabriel reports.
1 week prior to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s first State of the Nation address, or SONA, the Philippine National Police deployed personnel along Commonwealth Avenue and around Batasang Pambansa complex. PNP officer in charge, Police Lieutenant General Vicente Danao, personally inspected the troops this Tuesday. The PNP official says around 22,000 police personnel will be deployed on the day of the President's SONA.
Actually, we'll be implementing by Friday na yung tinatawag nating Manila Shield. Itong Manila Shield kasi usually ito yung term natin na ginagamit, especially on big events na ginagawa natin, katulad po ng SONA. So there will be border points, control points, no? Just like what we usually do, especially from those who will be coming from the different regions. So expect that there will be checkpoints from time to time.
General Danao also inspected the vehicles and other equipment that will be utilized by the Quezon City Police District. He presided over the command conference, attended by officials from QCPD and the National Capital Region Police Office or NCRPO. The PNP also reiterated that they would not allow any kinds of protests along Commonwealth Avenue. This time, protesters can hold their programs within the designated freedom parks like Quezon City Memorial Circle and inside UP Diliman campus.
We've been doing this every day, every year. Nagrarally sila, nandiyan tayo sa Commonwealth, haharangin sila. Parang ano lang natin, pinapakiusap natin. But if they will insist of doing that, yun ang sinabi sa atin with the instruction of the OIC, with maximum tolerance and calibrated response, gagawin namin yun. We will not allow them. Kasi that will be you will create public disorder. The traffic.
The PNP also clarified that signal jamming around Batasan Complex will be implemented depending on the intelligence information the authorities will gather on the SONA day. Road closures will also be announced in the coming days. As for the traffic rerouting, the Metro Manila Development Authority has announced some alternate routes motorists can take. All northbound vehicles from Quezon City Memorial Circle going to Fairview can take the route from North Avenue, Mindanao Avenue, Sauyo Road, or Quirino Highway and Commonwealth Avenue. Motorists going southbound from Fairview headed to QCMC can take Commonwealth Avenue, Sauyo Road or Quirino Highway, Mindanao Avenue, and North Avenue toward their destination. Mar Gabriel, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The House of Representatives has imposed a semi-lockdown within its premises. The move is part of its preparation for the first State of the Nation address of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. on Monday. House of Representatives Secretary General Leandro Mendoza says they will limit individuals allowed to come inside Batasang Pambansa. Mendoza is not laying down the possibility of a total lockdown at Batasang Complex from Thursday or Friday. For now, the preparations continue inside and out of the complex to ensure the safe and orderly conduct of the President's SONA. In a separate interview, Mendoza says the President has instructed them to make the program for his SONA simple.
Apparently, some Pinoy students have learned little from their online classes in the past 2 years. Mayan Corvera shares her conversations with parents. Let's hear from them.
Marites, a mother of 3 school kids, noticed that her children have not learned much in the past 2 years of studying online, as the government plans to make conducting face-to-face classes mandatory by November. She wishes teachers would focus more on the way they teach science and math.
Parang wala lang sa kanya. Mas maganda talaga yung face-to-face talaga kaysa yung online class.
Another parent, Jojo, wants the subject home economics and values education to be reintroduced. He says children nowadays spend much of their time using gadgets, avoiding, if not outright, refusing to do household chores.
Ibalik yung tamang pagdidisiplina. Dahil yan magsisimula bago yung utak. Kailangan yung puso muna yung disiplina. Kasi nawala na yung disiplina na yun. Tulad nung araw, no? Nung aming kabataan, pagpasok mo sa school, kayo maglilinis. Pag uwian, kayo pa rin ang maglilinis. Sa ganung paraan, no? Maaring yung pagdidisiplina na rin ay may tuturo sa bata hanggang sa lumaki sila, may i-apply yun doon sa kanilang pag-aaral.
Senator Nancy Binay says, aside from math, English, and science, the education system should also embrace the use of technology. Digital technology has flourished worldwide, especially at the height of the pandemic.
Dapat ma-incorporate na yung use of technology na maging bahagi ng educational system kasi katulad dun sa mga kapitbahay natin sa Asia, naka-incorporate na yung use of technology eh. During this pandemic, di ba, naging bahagi na yung paggamit ng mga gadgets. So dapat i-incorporate kasi isa dun sa nakita nilang pag-aaral kung bakit mababa din tayo sa mga exams.
The Lady Senator says she understands the sentiments of some parents and private schools that an option for hybrid learning should still be offered. Some parents are concerned that their children might contract the virus, especially in schools with small capacities and are not able to implement physical distancing.
Maganda pag-aralan ngayon yung baka may shifting pa din pagdating dun sa face-to-face. Pero para sa akin, kailangan lahat ng estudyante maka-experience ng face-to-face classes. Whether, pero baka hindi pa nga kakayanin na buong 5 days. Kasi nga, hanggang ngayon, may kakulangan tayo ng classrooms.
Meanwhile, Vice President and Education Secretary Sara Duterte says the department is currently reviewing school curricula, particularly those involving the K-12 program. She also says they have a comprehensive development plan that aims to ensure quality education for students.
Ang atin na priorities ay nakabase po sa Basic Education Development Plan o BEDP 2030. Ito po yung plan na ginawa, comprehensive plan na ginawa ng administration ni Secretary Briones. Nakalagay na po doon kung ano po yung 4 na pillars na base sa kanilang study ay nagko-contribute sa problema sa quality ng education natin dito sa ating bansa. Isa na doon is equity, isa doon is access, and isa doon is quality, and then one other pillar.
Mayan Corvera reporting for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The Monetary Board has approved the $3.54 billion new loan of the government from foreign institutions, according to the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. The BSP says the amount is 226.4% higher compared to the $2.8 billion loan approved for the period of April to June 2021. The amount is 26.25% lower compared to borrowings in the first quarter of the year. The BSP says the borrowing includes bond issuance worth $513.41 million US dollars, 3 project loans worth $2.16 billion, and 3 program loans worth $869.72 million. Under the 1987 Constitution, foreign loan agreements entered by the national government need the approval of the Monetary Board of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has paid a courtesy call on Iglesia ni Cristo Executive Minister Brother Eduardo V. Manalo at the church's headquarters in Quezon City. The visit came nearly a week before the president's first State of the Nation address on July 25th. Here's Eden Santos to tell us more.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. once again visited Iglesia ni Cristo Executive Minister Brother Eduardo V. Manalo at the central office in Quezon City. Despite his busy schedule, President Marcos did not forget to pay a courtesy call on Brother Eduardo after his landslide victory in the May 9 presidential elections. Marcos was among the candidates in the last elections that sought the support of the Iglesia ni Cristo, which is renowned for standing and acting in solid unity. Brother Eduardo V. Manalo warmly accepted the president and met with him for almost an hour. Marcos expressed his gratitude for the INC support for his administration following his formal assumption as president last June 30. He is confident that the INC will continue to conduct programs benefiting the country and its people, as well as support the government's response to pandemic and the looming food crisis, among other challenges. The church has been cooperative with the Philippine government in addressing the COVID-19 pandemic, not just by observing health protocols, but also by giving aid to the people. For instance, the INC's aid to humanity in the Philippines has assisted church members and non-members alike in Metro Manila and in various areas in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. President Marcos also extended his greetings for the commemoration of the Iglesia ni Cristo's 108th anniversary on July 27, 2022.
Thank you.
Hello. Eden Santos reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Next up, 18 women killed as an overcrowded wedding boat capsizes in Pakistan. Switzerland will not treat wounded Ukrainians, claiming neutrality. And armed bystander praised for preventing more deaths in Indiana shooting. More stories from around the world when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Lahat ng mahilig magluto at kumain.
May bago at katakam-takam na cooking show dito lamang sa Net25. Ako si Patty Daza.
Ako naman si Sandy Daza.
Samahan niyo kaming magpinsan dito sa Lutong Daza.
Bukod sa masarap at abot kaya na recipes, masarap ang kwentuhan at halakhakan dito.
At syempre, laging may special celebrity guest. Kainan na! Kita-kits!
Lutong Daza sa Net25.
Moms, treat your kids to Net25's animated shows.
Miffy, a sweet little bunny. Miffy, a smart little bunny. Miffy, a cute little bunny. Miffy, it always feels sunny. With Miffy!
Miffy's Adventures Big and Small, Sundays at 10 a.m., back to back with
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Now, what should have been a joyous occasion quickly turned tragic in Pakistan. At least 18 women drowned after an overcrowded boat carrying a Pakistan wedding party capsized on Monday. According to officials, the boat was carrying about 100 members of one family. The boat was part of a marriage procession crossing the Indus River. Dozens of people remain missing. 25 to 30 people were either rescued by residents who live along the river or managed to swim ashore. Local police say that most of the drowned appear to be women because most of the men knew how to swim. Now in Pakistan, where conservative modesty codes still govern much of public behavior, women are not widely encouraged to learn how to swim.
Sri Lankans continue to protest in the streets as the country is shaken by a profound economic crisis. Inflation is at more than 50% and the impact is hitting hard. Ranjan Sharma of RT News reports.
A shortage of fuel in a bankrupt country has led to prices of all commodities, including rice, wheat, fruits and vegetables going through the roof. With inflation at more than 50%, the prices are burning a hole in the pockets of Sri Lankans.
Ordinarily, this market would be buzzing with people at this hour. But now with the prices of basics gone up drastically, things have changed. Something like a banana, say for example, has also become a luxury for many.
It's very expensive compared to 3-4 months ago. We don't consume fruits like those days. We just get the essential stuff.
People have to pay the big money. That's the problem. Things are not normal at the moment.
The island nation is running out of foreign currency reserves to import essential items, and its impact is hitting hard. Locals are now counting on the changing political landscape of the country to reshape their economic future. Despite Gotabaya Rajapaksa's resignation, protests continue in Sri Lanka. It's day 100, and the crowd chants have gone from "Gotta go back" to "Ranil go back." Why are people still here and not at home, you may ask? Not far from the demonstrations is Peterson's Lane in Valawate. In these small alleys, we stop by a house. It's around 7 in the evening and Ruchini has just started making dinner. She has to feed a family of 6, including her 2 children. With no gas, she uses kerosene to cook. Ruchini is just about finished cooking and there's been a power cut. She and her family are going to eat the meal in complete darkness, just like most days. The power won't come back for the next 5 hours or so, although the cuts have gotten better from a month ago. But it's still a daily affair.
We're only able to give our children milk once a day, down from 3 times previously, because milk powder is now too expensive. We try to feed our children 3 times a day, but we can barely manage to do it more than once or twice. We can't even get basic medicine for our children. There are no antibiotics at local pharmacies or even at hospitals.
Ruchini's story is not just her story. It is the story of many of the 22 million people in the country. And unlike the daily power cutouts, their plight will last much longer than a few hours, with no telling when things will improve. Runjan Sharma in Colombo for RT.
Sri Lankan acting President Ranil Wickremesinghe says sanctions triggered by the Ukraine conflict are deepening his country's food crisis. Speaking at a forum on famine, he said 6 million Sri Lankans are malnourished. He also noted how fertilizer supplies, interrupted by the international response to Moscow's actions, had hit rice production by 30%.
And they are offering us now $14 billion. We have to thank them for the generosity to obtain food to strengthen agricultural productivity. But we have to do more. And what is affecting us is the Russian-Ukraine war. Then, and the sanctions that have been imposed. I want to know whether these sanctions are helping us to overcome the global shortage, or is it hampering us? It will be said by the European Union and UK, no, this will not affect you. But it is not the case.
Sri Lanka's financial and economic woes were triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic, but aggravated by mismanagement under Gotabaya Rajapaksa's government. The country's parliament will soon elect a new president on Wednesday to replace Rajapaksa, who fled to Singapore and resigned last week following months of protests over the country's financial meltdown.
Iran's president will host his Russian and Turkish counterparts for talks on the Syrian war in a 3-way summit. The summit is the first hosted by Iran's ultra-conservative President Ebrahim Raisi since he took office last year, and the second trip abroad by Russia's Vladimir Putin since the Russia-Ukraine conflict started in February. It comes days after U.S. President Joe Biden visited the Middle East for the first time since taking office, with stops in Iran's regional foes, Israel and Saudi Arabia. But the trilateral summit is ostensibly centered on Syria as part of the so-called Astana peace process to end more than 11 years of conflict in the Arab country. All three are involved in Syria, with Iran and Russia supporting the regime of President Bashar al-Assad and Turkey backing rebel forces. The gathering comes after Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan threatened late last year to launch a new offensive in northern Syria against Kurdish militants. Iran has already warned that any Turkish military action in Syria could destabilize the region. The summit will also enable Erdogan to hold his first meeting with Putin since Russia's conflict with Ukraine began. The Turkish president has for months been offering to meet the Russian leader in a bid to help resolve heightened global tensions. Russian analyst Vladimir Sotnikov told AFP News the timing of this summit is not a coincidence. Sotnikov says Turkey wants to conduct a special operation in Syria, just as Russia is implementing a special operation in Ukraine.
Swiss health and foreign affairs officials have rejected a request from NATO's disaster response unit to treat Ukraine's wounded, citing legal and practical concerns surrounding neutrality. Under the Geneva Convention, neutral states must ensure rehabilitated combatants do not return to action afterward, while the lawmakers argued distinguishing between civilians who technically could be treated and military wounded would be near impossible. Now, according also to RT News, the rejection comes after some cantons reportedly expressed a willingness to accept the proposals a few weeks ago.
The European Union launched membership negotiations with Albania and North Macedonia, a long-delayed step toward joining the bloc. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen warmly congratulated Prime Ministers Edi Rama of Albania and Dimitar Kovacevski of Macedonia.
Albania and North Macedonia are opening the accession negotiations to the European Union. And I'm so glad to be here with you. This is your success. It is your success and your citizens' success. You and your citizens, you and your people have been working so hard to get here. And you have shown so much enduring commitment to our values.
It is a great satisfaction that after 17 years, today we are finally starting the negotiations. We are opening new perspectives for our country and for the citizens. And steady but surely, we are joining the large European family.
We need this to continue to build a strong, democratic European Albania and a strong, democratic Western and open Balkan. Thank you.
The process of joining what is today a 27-member bloc could still take years, but the formal step marks a small victory for the candidates. Germany has been a champion of North Macedonia's cause. Minister for Europe Anna Luerman hailed it a truly historic day and promised progress once the constitutional changes are passed.
The Foreign and Defense Ministries in Beijing issued harsh statements condemning the Biden administration's approval of a new U.S. arms sale to Taiwan. The deal is worth an estimated $108 million and includes armored vehicle parts and technical assistance. RT News quoted Defense Ministry spokesman Colonel Tan Kefei as saying that Beijing demands that the U.S. immediately withdraw the arms sales, halt all other such arms deals, and cut military ties with Taiwan. Kefei stressed that the U.S. arms sales to the island seriously violate the One China principle and the three Sino-U.S. joint communiques. He explained that if the sales continue, the U.S. side will be solely responsible for undermining the U.S.-China relationship and the peace and stability of the Taiwan Strait. The colonel strongly added that the Chinese People's Liberation Army will resolutely thwart any form of external interference and separatist attempts for Taiwan independence. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin sharply supported Cafe's sentiment, saying China will continue to take resolute and strong measures to firmly defend its sovereignty and security interests. State Department spokesman Ned Price dismissed China's concerns, claiming that the U.S. has certain obligations to supply Taiwan with the necessary means to defend itself. Price cited the Taiwan Relations Act, saying the weapon deliveries to Taiwan are necessary to let the country maintain a sufficient self-defense capability, which is something successive administrations have done. Price reiterated that such a transaction is entirely consistent with the One China policy. The multi-billion-dollar sales transaction between the U.S. and Taiwan is set to receive congressional approval.
The sentencing trial began Monday for the troubled young man who admitted to carrying out the February 14, 2018 school shooting in Parkland, Florida. A prosecutor arguing for the death penalty denounced the unspeakable murders of the 17 victims. Nicolas Cruz pleaded guilty in October to 17 counts of murder and 17 counts of attempted murder for the attack at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. A jury is to decide whether the 23-year-old should receive the death penalty or a life sentence for what lead prosecutor Mike Satz called a, quote, calculated, manipulative, and deadly massacre.
I'm going to speak to you about the unspeakable, about this defendant's goal-directed, planned, systematic murder, mass murder, of 14 children, an athletic director, a teacher, and a coach. With an AR and some tracers. I think I can get it.
Authorities praised the quick actions of the armed chopper who took down a gunman shooting up the Greenwood Mall south of Indianapolis. Greenwood Police Chief Jim Eisen said at a news conference that many more people would have died on Sunday if not for Elijah Dicken, a responsible armed citizen. The heavily armed suspect, Jonathan Sapperman, killed 3 people and injured 2 others at a shopping center near Indianapolis. Sapperman was carrying 2 rifles and a handgun and more than 100 rounds of bullets, according to police. He just fired 24 rounds from one of the rifles before he was shot by Dicken about 2 minutes into his deadly assault. Dicken, aged 22, was at the mall with his girlfriend. He drew his pistol and fatally shot Sapperman to stop him from firing a round. Dicken was legally armed, though the mall's policy prohibits people bringing them inside. Mall operator Simon Property Group praised his heroism, but did not mention its policy. Meanwhile, the Johnson County coroner also released the names of the 3 victims, Victor Gomez, aged 30, and married couple Pedro Pineda, aged 56, and Rosa Rivera de Pineda, aged 37. The latest incident reignited America's debate about gun ownership. Coming up, Europe burns as heat wave breaks temperature records. Russia fines Google $360 million over Ukraine content.
I guess the overalls.
And shocking report shows how Australia's land and wildlife are being destroyed.
What we're doing now will continue this.
Mata ng Agila International. We'll be right back after this short break.
Masiglahin ang araw ng linggo. Kayo'y maaantig.
Huwag mo ubusin ang luha mo sa wala dito.
Mapapaisip.
What are we gonna do?
Matatawa.
Why so much food? Even no money, no honey, we make utang-utang.
Mapapahanga. At mapapainda. Kasama si Daki, ang nag-iisang comedy king Dolphy.
Ano pangalan mo? Big po. Big po. Ano mo si Fernando po?
to Vic and Joey.
Mahirap ikwento, Vicky. Mahabang istorya.
At marami pang artista na kinagigiliwan noon magpahanggang ngayon.
My love, my endless love.
Sine Throwback. Tuwing Linggo, alas 12 ng tanghali sa Net 25.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. A fierce heat wave yesterday left much of Western Europe wilting under a scorching sun, smashing temperature records and feeding ferocious forest wildfires. From London, Arian Celestino reports.
A fierce heat wave in Western Europe has left much of the continent wilting under a scorching sun, feeding ferocious wildfires and threatening to smash more temperature records on Tuesday. In Britain, forecasters said the current national record of 38.7 degrees Celsius could be broken and 40 degrees Celsius breached for the first time, with experts blaming climate change and predicting more frequent extreme weather to come. On Monday, the 38.1 degrees Celsius recorded in Suffolk in eastern England made it the hottest day of the year and the third hottest day on record. The mercury hit 39.3 degrees Celsius in Brest on the Atlantic coast of Brittany in the far west of the country, smashing a previous record of 35.1 degrees Celsius from 2002. Ireland saw temperatures of 33 degrees Celsius in Dublin, the highest since 1887, while in the Netherlands, temperatures reached 35.4 degrees Celsius in the southern city of Westdorp. Although that was not a record, higher temperatures are expected there on Tuesday. European heat wave is the second to engulf parts of the southwest of the continent in recent weeks. European Commission researchers, meanwhile, said nearly half, or 46% of EU territory, was exposed to warning level drought. 11% was at an alert level, and crops were already suffering from lack of water. In Britain, the government already on the ropes after a series of scandals that forced Prime Minister Boris Johnson to quit, has been accused of taking the situation too lightly. Johnson was criticized for having failed to attend an emergency meeting on the crisis on Sunday, instead hosting a farewell party at his state-founded country retreat. And medics condemned comments by Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab, who appeared to minimize the threat from the extreme heat when he told Britons to enjoy the sunshine. The Sun tabloid headlined its coverage of the heat, "British Bake Off," observing that the scorcher was making the UK hotter than Ibiza, where temperatures were a comparatively low 30 degrees Celsius. The extreme temperatures saw flights suspended at Luton Airport near London and at Royal Air Force Base Bryce Norton due to defects on the runway, with no let-up expected for Tuesday. Trains were cancelled and schools closed in affected areas. From London, United Kingdom, this is Arian Celestino for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
A climate expert warns there is no good news when it comes to heat waves. Dr. Anela Angar-Kravi, director of the Climate Policy Research Center at the University of Cambridge, says we should start thinking about how to adapt pretty seriously.
Unfortunately, there are no good news. So climate change is not the weather variability when you're just like today is colder, tomorrow something, but it's an increase in average temperatures. So they are measured as a 10-year or 20 or 30 average, and these will keep increasing even if we stopped all greenhouse gas emissions today, because this climate system is inertia, and this heating will still continue. And is that we should start thinking how to adapt pretty seriously, because this will happen more often now. As we see that if including this, if the last 5 ones, highest temperatures have been happening within the last 10 years, then this is the sign it's going to be more. There is a trend. It's going to be more and more frequent.
Dr. Angar-Kravi adds that climate change is a global problem. Even if one country just went net zero tomorrow and others continued, the country would still have heat waves. She says this is because carbon dioxide molecules get equally distributed around the globe, so it doesn't matter where they are emitted.
The world has a choice between collective action and collective suicide and must act immediately to address climate change. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres delivered this strong ultimatum to the Petersburg Climate Dialogue.
I have only one thing to say from the bottom of my heart. President Putin, stop your troops from attacking the Ukraine. Give peace a chance. Too many people have already died. Thank you, Mr. President.
The top UN official added that no nation is immune to the global crisis. Instead of playing the blame game, Guterres said that nations must take responsibility for the world's collective future, as time is no longer on our side. The meeting in Berlin, Germany, convened representatives from 40 countries to discuss progress on implementing climate agreements, reducing the use of fossil fuels, and promoting the switch to sustainable energy sources. The main goal is to limit global warming to 1.5 Celsius, as agreed at last year's COP26 Climate Summit in Scotland. The attendees also engaged in the preparations for the COP27 World Climate Conference, scheduled for November in the Egyptian resort of Sharm el-Sheikh.
Britain's Prince Harry addresses the United Nations General Assembly at its annual celebration of Nelson Mandela International Day. The 37-year-old royal mentions the global fuel crisis, food shortage, and drought, all at never-before-seen levels.
The war and inflation have left Africa mired in a fuel and food crisis, the likes of which we have not seen in decades. This comes at a time when the Horn of Africa is enduring the longest drought it's faced in close to half a century. And what is happening in Africa is not an isolated event. The drought there is a reflection of extreme weather we are seeing across the globe. As we sit here today, our world is on fire again.
Australian lawmakers are desperately trying to create ways to use vast quarantine facilities they had pushed through for $2 billion in taxpayers' money shortly before restrictions were lifted. According to the Daily Mail, state and federal authorities went ahead with a plan that were still only in early blueprint stages, knowing they would likely not be used with the imminent changes in restrictions in July. Alternative usage included using the sprawling facilities as backpacker accommodations or disaster relief centers for locals, or even just letting them sit there unused in case of another pandemic.
Fresh demonstrations and roadblocks arise in Panama as pressure groups turn their backs on a deal signed with the government to end their protest in exchange for a fuel price cut. Union leaders are saying no to the deal announced Sunday. Protest leader Luis Sanchez says protests will continue, claiming that the agreement was signed under pressure. Trucks and banner-waving demonstrators paralyzed the strategic Pan-American highway. On Sunday, the government and some protest leaders announced a deal to end more than 2 weeks of demonstrations over high fuel prices and rising living costs in the country of 4.4 million people. The private sector says the outpouring has cost the economy millions of dollars in losses and has led to shortages of fuel and food in some parts of the country. Residents say there is barely enough food, and the little that can be found they cannot afford.
Former Donald Trump advisor calls the January 6 committee's hearings nothing but a show trial. This after the first day of jury selection ahead of Steve Bannon's trial for defying a subpoena to testify before lawmakers investigating the attack on the U.S. Capitol.
Look, it was a very good first day. It was a long day for jury selection. I really want to thank all the jurors for being truthful and blunt. I thought that was great. And we look forward tomorrow. We're coming back and we get into it tomorrow. So we're looking forward. And I think we'd have been more productive if we'd been on Capitol Hill in front of open mics addressing the nation with exactly all this nonsense, this show trial they've been putting up on Capitol Hill. It's nothing but a show trial. It's time they start having other witnesses. They can give other testimony other than what they've been putting up.
Bannon, who led Trump's successful 2016 presidential election campaign, was among dozens of people called by a congressional committee to testify about the 2021 storming of Congress by Trump's supporters. The 68-year-old refused the summons and was indicted on 2 charges of contempt of Congress. A 22-person jury has been selected on Monday to hear the case. The panel will be cut down to 12 jurors and 2 alternates, and opening arguments will begin in what is expected to be a speedy trial. Bannon's lawyers sought to delay the start of the trial so it would not take place at the same time as the House Committee's public hearing into the Capitol attack. The judge refused the request last week.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi insists she has no prior knowledge of her own husband's trades after Paul bought over $1 million of stocks in a U.S. semiconductor company ahead of Congress's slated $52 billion chip industry subsidy bill. After Paul Pelosi bought between $1 and $5 million in NVIDIA shares, Representative James Comer slammed Nancy as the ultimate insider and the media for ignoring her bad and unethical behavior. The Senate could vote on the bill by Tuesday in an attempt to boost American chip companies over Chinese rivals.
A Moscow court has fined Google 21 billion rubles or $360 million for failing to remove content concerning Russia's military intervention in Ukraine. Russia's telecommunications regulator Roskomnadzor said the Google-owned video platform YouTube had failed to block false information on the offensive in Ukraine, extremist and terrorist propaganda, and content calling on minors to participate in unauthorized demonstrations. The regulator said that, as this was a repeat conviction for Google, the fine was based on its annual revenue in Russia.
Be famous.
According to Vladimir Zykov, an expert cited by Russian news agency RIA Novosti, the fine is the largest ever imposed on a Western tech firm by a Russian court. Zykov added that Russian authorities can impose on Google as many fines as they wish, but they won't receive the money, as the firm has pulled out of the country. Google had no immediate comments concerning the fine. Australia's unique wildlife is being devastated by bushfires, drought, habitat loss, and global warming, a government report said, warning that more species are headed for extinction.
Really disturbing stuff in here goes to species loss. We're the worst continent on the planet for mammal extinctions. If you look at, fish numbers, native fish species in the Murray-Darling Basin system have declined by 90% in the last 150 years.
Australian Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek said the environment report prompted urgent calls to reverse the poor and deteriorating state of Florida and fauna, or state of flora and fauna depicted by scientists on land and at sea.
I guess the overall story here is that the environment's in a bad state and it's declining, and if we don't do something to change what we're doing now, we'll continue to see that decline.
The report stated that the damage is hastened by a climate that has warmed Australia's average land temperature by 1.4 degrees Celsius since the early 20th century. Scientists warned in the report that failure to manage the pressures will continue to result in species extinctions. Plibersek, a member of the centre-left Labour Party that came to power in the May elections, criticized the previous Conservative government for failing to publish the report, which it had received in December of 2021. The promise to carve out more of Australia's land and oceans for protection, pursue fundamental reform of environmental laws, and empower a new environmental protection agency.
Next up, U.S. bank results highlight risk and resiliency. Two-time Olympic skating champion Hanyu retires at 27. And huge waves crash into a wedding reception in Hawaii after a tropical storm. More stories from around the globe when Agila International returns.
Province of Bohol, we produced majority of the products because of our terrain. We focused on the food security for the Boholano, like rice, corn, root crops.
I want to tell to the whole world that we Filipinos exist in the chocolate world.
As much as possible, we wanted our guests to stay and enjoy the facilities that we have here. Yes, that's right.
So that they won't go out.
Yeah, it's a one-stop shop already.
Wala pang masyadong foreigners, pero yung local natin talagang umano sila. Nag-travel talaga ang locals natin.
Open for Business is in Bohol, and Bohol is open for business.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Kaya sa Quezon City Show, sumama na lahat tayo, buong pamilya, pati ang barkada. Ang inyong aso, pati inyong mga pusa, magsama-sama tayo, sa Quezon City na tayo.
Despite mounting worries over inflation, just released banked earnings paint a resilient picture of the U.S. economy and consumers, generating talk that any recession might be milder than earlier downturns.
Inflation, inflationary expectations, interest rate changes, a vast array of complicated concepts and measures.
Reports from 6 U.S. banking giants show a significant drop in profits from the heady year-ago period, with most of the group establishing fresh provisions in case of defaults. Executives express caution about what's to come in light of the growing hits from higher gasoline and food prices. This includes the burden of increased lending costs following several Federal Reserve interest rate hikes and persistent supply chain problems. But banks still haven't seen a significant rise in charge-offs from bad loans. They say many households still have a buffer of savings after conserving funds during the height of the pandemic when the federal government had generous relief programs. Council of Economic Advisors member Jared Bernstein says the U.S. economy remains solidly within expansion.
Come back in. The president's actions taken thus far are helping to provide real relief, real breathing room for the American consumers at the pump. So this is not just an aspirational a goal of this president. This is something he and his team are actively working on. There is a lot he can do, and there is a lot he will.
Glassnode data provided by crypto analyst Will Clemente says cryptocurrency platform Binance has overtaken Coinbase to become the largest exchange with the most BTC held. A Glassnode Insights report notes that over the past 2 years, Coinbase has experienced net outflows of Bitcoin totaling more than 450,000 BTC caused by the transfer of these coins to new wallets unrelated to the Coinbase entity. But over the same period, Binance's net balance increased by about 300,000 BTC. Other news sources say it is not clear whether the said data includes all the untagged addresses of both the crypto exchanges. Nick DeBontin, an employee of Coinbase, rejected the findings of the Glassnode data. Bontin posted a tweet saying Glassnode's data is an irrelevant metric considering that exchanges store assets in various other modes. He added that a vast majority of exchange funds are in cold storage and untagged addresses.
Japan's two-time Olympic figure skating champion Yuzuru Hanyu retired from competition at age 27, but decides to continue professionally. Here's Mia Villia with the details.
Two-time Olympic figure skating champion Hanyu retires aged 27. Holding 19 world records, including being the first to break the 100, 200, and 300-point barrier, Hanyu Yuzuru retired from competitive figure skating and decides to continue being a professional skater. His final competition was the Beijing Olympics, following a historic attempt at the quadruple axel. Wearing a dark suit and bowing deeply as he took to the stage, Hanyu told the packed press conference in Tokyo that he was finished as a competitive athlete. Hanyu said he will concentrate on skating in exhibition shows for his fans, but made clear his discomfort with the idea of being considered retired. The national icon said that he doesn't like using the word retire and he wants to remain more of an athlete and he wants people to see him as he continues to fight. Hanyu won his first Olympic singles title at the 2014 Sochi Games and then became the first man in 66 years to defend his crown 4 years later in Pyeongchang. He also won the World Championships in 2014 and 2017, but he has been dogged by injury in recent years, including an ankle ligament problem that he had to overcome to win his second Olympic gold. Hanyu is the only male single skater to complete the Super Slam and the first to land the quadruple loop, quad toe triple axel, and quad toe Euler triple flip in competition. This is Mia Villar reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The second time proves to be the charm for celebrity power couple Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. 18 years after their first romance failed, the couple recently were married in Las Vegas. The marriage license was filed in Clark County, Nevada, and listed the parties as Affleck Benjamin Geza and Lopez Jennifer. It gives the latter's new name as Affleck Jennifer. The duo started dating in 2002, postponed their 2003 planned wedding, and then announced in early 2004 that their relationship was over. In April of this year, the couple announced their engagement.
On to another wedding. A couple has described the moment they witnessed a giant wave crash their wedding in Hawaii. The newlywed was thankful that their wedding cake was not destroyed by Darby.
Now a quick glance at historical events on this day, July 19. In 1886, Franz Liszt played the piano for the last time at age 74. Known for his Hungarian rhapsodies, the piano virtuoso and composer played for the final time at a concert in Luxembourg. His health had not been good for some months, and his illness developed into pneumonia. He died on July the 31st of the same year. In 1903, French bicyclist Maurice Garin won the first Tour de France. The cycling race ran from 1 to 19 July in 6 stages, covering 2,428 kilometers. Garin won the first stage and retained the lead throughout, with a margin of almost 3 hours over the next cyclist. And in 1947, Aung San was assassinated while the Executive Council was in session in Rangoon, Myanmar. Dubbed the father of modern-day Myanmar, Aung San was instrumental in securing Myanmar's independence from Great Britain. His daughter, Aung San Suu Kyi, is a stateswoman, politician, and Nobel Peace Prize laureate.
Rounding off tonight's broadcast is a quote from former U.S. President Ronald Reagan. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. That's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I'm CJ Hero.
And I'm Nina Richie Elago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.